Hello. At the time of recording, it is my mum's birthday today. We've already been up. We've gone for breakfast to our little local cafe, and they actually put on some little decorations and gave her a cake with a candle, and we sang to her. I just think that's so adorable, especially when I don't think they organised it. I think they just did it because they knew it were a birthday, so it was dead cute. So I thought for today's video, I would do what I said last week and talk about toxic positivity because it's been in my head for a while, and the best way that I can think about stuff is say it out loud. And I really enjoy hearing other people's opinions as well. So what I'm going to do is make a cup of tea, and then get cozy, and let's have a little chit chat. Oh, there's not actual hair in my tea. That's wrong. It isn't. Anyway, right. Oh my god, that took ages to set up. I thought it'd be really cool, really casual, and you know how YouTubers say, sorry about the lighting, everyone. And I always used to think I'm not really bothered, but literally the weather at the moment is goes pitch black and then it goes really bright. So that's what we're going to have to deal with, but that's okay. Let's talk about toxic positivity. There's so much I wanted to talk about in this topic. I feel like as I've got older, I've realised how dangerous toxic positivity can be. Now let's Google what the definition actually is, because obviously we've all got ideas in our heads of what it means, but let's Google it. So, toxic positivity is the belief that people should maintain a positive mindset no matter how dire or difficult a situation is. While there are benefits to being optimistic and engaging in positive thinking, toxic positivity rejects all difficult emotions in favour of a cheerful and often falsely positive facade. Now, that's what I thought it meant. It's good to just check these things. First of all, I want to preface this with, because I know my mum and dad watch, and I feel like this isn't pointing any fingers as to how I was brought up, because, to be honest, thinking positively is not the worst thing in the world. So I just want to say that first of all. And I definitely think there's a sliding scale. Obviously, positive thinking does have its benefits. But I think, really reflecting and being honest, because I am a people pleaser, I have naturally had toxic positivity within me since I was really very young. For context, for people that don't know, I have used a wheelchair since I was 2 years old, and I have broken over 300 bones in my lifetime, basically stopped counting. So I feel like the toxic positivity that started for me was, I first of all used to get pitied, well still do, get pitied for being in a wheelchair. So people would be like, oh, bless you, isn't it sad? So I would overly show people how happy, how determined, how, basically how rubbish that statement was. So I would always be cheerful, always be happy, and, any negative feelings that I had, I felt like it was a weakness to admit. And it was feeding into that stereotype that people had about me. So yeah, I, from a very young age, would always be at my best everywhere I went, made sure, I was entertaining and whatever else. I'm always the one to make a joke in a silent moment, or I'm always making sure that, everyone's happy, and if I get a pity stare, I'll make sure that person knows, that I am happy and I am good. So I think from a really young age, I've kind of really held on to that. And then in terms of like pain, obviously, you can't help being in pain and they are bad moments. So I would, and still do to this day, very much hide when I'm in pain, and only my really tight, close circle will know when I'm having a bad time in terms of, broken bones or I'm aching because I felt again like it was a weakness to show that I was in pain, which is just so ridiculous. But I also don't blame myself for feeling like that because, I was almost taught that, oh, bless, you're disabled. Of course you're in pain. Of course life is harder for you. So I was just continuously pushing to, prove everyone wrong that actually I was so strong and so, I'm going to say the word resilient, but I think there's actually a really bad side to the word resilient. But in my head, I thought being resilient was really, really good. Anyway, then I think it was when I got to university, I started to talk to other disabled people and I started to realise about the social model of disability and how there's so many barriers in the world that actually, really get in the way of me being able to do what I need to do in my day. And that's not my fault. Like, don't get me wrong, there's so many layers to it and, having a medical condition, definitely, obviously, there's still pain there. But a lot of the problems that I had in society, not being able to get into buildings, not being able to pay for my own things, like, I started to realise that, wait a minute, there are problems with the world and it's not me all the time. So then I started to speak up about, barriers in society and that when I got my first job at Leeds University, like I started to speak up about what we could do to make things better for disabled people. And doing that kind of felt like I was going against this positivity that I thought my personal not brand, but like my personality was. But it felt so liberating to start talking about things that actually, were barriers. And it wasn't complaining and I didn't want sympathy. I was just feeling empowered to share what barriers there were. Anyway, I recently then did a talk about a week ago when I kept banging on that video about how I was doing a talk, and I saw an old colleague, and it made me realise how far we've come in terms of, positivity and being surrounded by, I've got to be careful how I put this, but like people who say things like, you're not disabled, you do more than me. Or you're not disabled, you just sat down. Like there were so many comments in my early 20s that I got that was almost denying my identity. In my talks I always say like, think of the proudest identity that you have. Whether that's like you're a football fan and it's your team, and then someone says to you, you're not an Arsenal fan. Like, you'd be like, what? So I started to realise, probably late 20s when I was out of that I was like, wait a minute, it's like positivity, but a bad positivity. Do you know what I mean? So I was just finishing my cup of tea and want to add into this little bit that it also showed up in when I would finally talk about people being weird or staring at me or whatever. There were so many non-disabled people that would say like things like, do you think they were staring, or do you just think that you're so beautiful that people were just having a look? Like, it was so false. Like, don't get me wrong, I love a compliment, I'll take a compliment. But when you know it's actively staring and people making you feel uncomfortable, but a lot of non-disabled people don't want you to feel, I understand why, but they want you to feel, not sad and not uncomfortable, so they'll be like, they didn't mean it, they just, they just think you're lovely, and so confused, like, why is nobody acknowledging that, like, non-disabled people say and do the weirdest things sometimes. Generally, non-disabled people sticking up for each other when they would do really weird things. Like, it became just a default every time I started to express that somebody was a little bit weird. So I just wanted to add that in. And then, really, when I started to really talk about barriers and what people say, which is only in the last properly 6 years that I've gone hardcore and been like, look at these things that people say to me, ain't it rubbish? Like, people then start saying, you're so resilient, I don't know how you do it, I couldn't do it if I were you. And again, to me, that feels like toxic positivity of, you're so resilient, like, you're so brave, you're so strong, when it's so tiring to be resilient and brave and strong. And if you keep all that in and you don't say how you really feel, then you're just going to explode, which is basically what happened to me in my 30s now, where I just couldn't keep up with this facade like that definition said. And that's not to say that I was faking it, because I absolutely wasn't. But I was at my best all the time, and that best just wasn't reality. So don't get me wrong, I am a very naturally can-do person, ironically. I always see the cup half full, but I think that's because, there are times when I can't get out of the house or I can't do things, so I'm always grateful to be able to do what I can. And I've just been brought up that way as well. I've really realised in my 30s how tiring it is to keep up that and learn to be vulnerable, but with the right people, and making sure that basically I allow myself to be. I don't have to be super happy. I don't have to be super sad. I can just be okay. I can be neutral. And no one's going to be like, oh. And if they are, then so be it. If Barbara thinks I've got a shit life because I'm not smiling at her, then so be it. We've come far, everyone. But it's so bloody tiring and so difficult to almost unwire your brain and be like, you can just be you, you know? You don't have to be the entertainer all the time, or you don't have to not say how you feel. There's a lot going on in one's life, in anyone's life. So, yeah, I feel like we've really come a long way, and it's really important to keep checking in with myself that I'm not becoming this person that I think I should be, and just be the person that I need to be in order to keep genuinely sane. And I don't mean that in a, like, I'm not using that word in a derogatory way. Like, you've got to keep yourself healthy in your brain. So if anyone's watching this who you feel like, you even struggle saying when you're aching or when you're having a bad day, like, just practice with people that feel safe. One thing that me and my mum do, which is more in the winter, like we're getting into spring now, so it's not as much, but like when I have really bad pain days, like my hips just feel like raw spaghetti, like they just feel like they're gonna snap at any point. I call it a code red day, where I think I've talked about this before, where it basically just says how I feel without having to say how I feel. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, coming up with something like that, feel free to take that idea if you want it, but allow yourself to be vulnerable with people that you trust. And if you feel like you can't do that right now, try and unpack why that is. And therapy does help, I've got to say. I have dabbled in therapy, and it is amazing what can come out of your mouth without even thinking about it. You could just be like, oh, that's why I feel like this about this, and it's taken so long for me to get to this point. But yeah, I hope this helps. Not even helps. It's nice for me just to let it out, you know. But let me know if you can relate to this, because it'd be really interesting if you do. And I forgot to tell you right at the beginning that I spilt beans on my top from the birthday breakfast, so I'm sorry if that's all you've been concentrating on. Um, but I didn't want to get changed because it's more energy, and quite frankly, I want to save as much as I can. Anyway, thank you so much for watching this. Please do let my thoughts. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Again, just be sensitive to other people, and you know, I do make sure that the comments are regulated. So just bear that in mind. But thank you for watching, and let me know if there's any other topics you'd like me to delve into, because you know I love a chat, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!